Well, first it was the missed FBI tip today. The county sheriff's revealing a stunning set of failures by one of his deputies. Joining me now with reaction, Henderson County, North Carolina Sheriff Charles Stewart McDonald, who was with the president today actually discussing possible solutions to the issue of school violence. Great to have you with us, Sheriff.
Great to be here, Shannon.
Okay, so let's go back to this revelation that we have now from Sheriff Israel down in Broward County saying there was a deputy. He was there, he set up, he took a position outside. But apparently, according to witnesses in video, he never went in. Here is what Sheriff Israel had to say about this.
When the shooter was still inside the building?
Yes, he was.
And so what should he have done?
Went in, addressed the killer, killed the killer.
He says that's what should have happened with this deputy. It's hard for us to know what was happening in the chaos there. Sure. What's your take?
I believe so. Deputies, officers now are trained to move to the threat and take care of the situation. It sounds to me, from what I'm seeing or hearing, that this was an officer who was totally overwhelmed by the stress of the situation, who evidently wasn't properly trained. Maybe they thought he was, but something happened that caused him to fail to do what is a very unnatural thing to do, and that is move towards a son of gunfire by yourself. But nonetheless, that's the oath he takes to do. That's something we hope that all officers know they're signing up for when they sign up to do the job. It's a tough job, but putting a badge and a gun on somebody doesn't necessarily make them adept at the job that they've got to do, and that's something we need to be very, very aware of.
Yeah, and I would imagine that a lot of folks who are trained to be at schools, it's often because they're good with students, or that's something that they have a heart for. Most resource officers who go to school don't think this is something they're going to face. Now, all of them, I'm sure, are thinking about it every day when they walk in.
Right. I think it's changed a lot. Back when DARE first became that program that put officers in schools with kids, they were really there for teaching, for mentoring, and a lot of times the officers that went there were people, like you said, who specifically were children-oriented, but not necessarily the guys that would be on the tactical team or working the beat. I'm not saying that was always the case, but that was a lot of it. What's happened over the years is the armed guard responsibility has now fallen on those DARE officers, and so law enforcement across this nation is really looking at how they do training. Obviously, we've shifted a lot in our thinking even from Columbine to now. But again, there needs to be a lot more put into the officers who do have that responsibility to know that they're not there just to mentor kids, that their job is a very dangerous one, and if it happens on their watch, they're usually there by themselves.
Yeah, they often are. Okay, so let's talk about your meeting with the president today. He, in a tweet today, talked about all kinds of things, background checks, emphasis on mental health, raising the age potentially to 21 on long gun purchases, ending the sale of bump stocks. What did you talk about today that you thought may actually come to fruition and be helpful? One
of the things I was really impressed with, I didn't want to show up to something that was just going to be a photo op, and I could tell by the caliber of the people that were around that table. They all had great ideas, and they all wanted to be there to help solve the problem. I can see that the president really, a lot of compassion for what's happened, but sees this momentum to make something happen positively. He was very open to the mental health issue, which I think is something that has been overlooked. That's very serious in this nation. I know it is in North Carolina. A lot of people fall through the cracks. We heard from the Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Commissioner with Kentucky State Police about some programs they had, fusion centers, gathering information, just a lot of good things going on. Then we heard from the mental health side, a lot of ideas they have that they'd like to see put in place too. The President was very adamant about arming the right kind of personnel within the school system. I'm one of the few people, I guess, that goes along with that. Again, it's not giving anybody a gun and hoping they'll do what they need to do, but it's training, vetting people very well. I like to say, you know, in the skies over this nation, we have armed passengers flying on aircraft all the time. They're called air marshals, and nobody knows exactly who they are or where they are. But the fact that they're there and they don't really stand out certainly has been a large contribution to the fact that we haven't had any hijacking since 9/11.
Well, and they're the first person I look for when I get on the plane as well. And just knowing it's there does have a mental impact on how you view the conduct on that plane. Sheriff, thank you very much for stopping in while you're in town. And we know that all the things the president has talked about will be helpful to law enforcement officers across the spectrum.
They were very encouraging. I have a lot of hope for that. Thank you.
We would like to, too. Thank you very much.